If you're looking for something fun to do, round up the kids, head to Kings Island July 25th for National Carousel Day, also known as National Merry-Go-Round Day. I'm Don Helbig alongside Ryan Sir, and this is Tower Topics.
You know, Don, if I ever hear you referring to it as National Merry-Go-Round Day, I'm gonna slap you. Carousel is such a better word, isn't it?
Much, much better word. But there are some places that still call it the merry-go-round, so I had to include that in there. But talking carousels, National Carousel Day, Kings Island's carousel, it's magnificent. Love it. One of my favorite attractions. I go back to riding it at Cincinnati's Coney Island before it was among the attractions transported to Kings Island for the park's opening in 1972.
What a wonderful ride. You know, I don't think I ever rode it as a kid. I think the first time I rode it was I was in my 20s and I was like, what? But the thing though is as a kid you never appreciate what you're sitting on. You would just be like this ride goes around and around. But you're sitting on a freaking work of art. You're sitting on history. Isn't it incredible that we have these carousels?
I mean, it's special. I mean, for me, a ride uh, on the carousel, if I don't do that, I almost feel like that I really visit Kings Island. It's just magical. It's I think the heartbeat of the park is the carousel. It's in a nice spot. You hear the band organ playing as you walk by,
Mhm.
so you get that atmosphere. And, for me, and I think for many Kings Island guests, the Grand Carousel conjures up those fond memories, from your childhood. So there's that part of it for me. So many, many memories, again, going back to the Coney Island days. So I'm kind of dating myself there. But, those jumping horses, the band organ music, it just reminds me, of a simpler time, in my life before, jobs and bills and responsibilities and obligations and all those kind of things. So it's always a throwback to that time.
Yeah, so the carousel actually is a little bit younger than the band organ. You mentioned the band organ there. Carousel is PTC number 79. And it was manufactured in 1926 by Philadelphia Toboggan. And the band organ is Wurlitzer 157, and that's from 1918. So it's just a couple years younger.
Correct.
But I think that my favorite part is the horses and the craftsmanship and the work of art and so on. But I would say a close second is that band organ. It's I can't really rock out the band organ music while I'm driving to work in the morning, but when you hear it, essentially, I guess you could say live as it's playing it, there's just like a magical energy to it, isn't there? You know, it's like
There
seeing a
is.
band live.
There is. And you do see a number of guests that they just sit down on the benches around the carousel just to listen to the band organ. There are band organ enthusiasts out there. There's different parks do these band organ rallies even every year. So, yeah, I mean, that's special. I think the band organ really makes the Grand Carousel, brings it to life.
I agree. And now for the 50th anniversary of Kings Island, they did a lot of rehab on the carousel. Can you talk a little bit about that? What went into that?
Yeah, they did. All the horses and everything were kind of like refurbished. They were repainted, patched up if there were different, things that, were either cracking or, you know, that type of thing. It looked beautiful, when it opened last year. Just stunning. And, in a lot of ways, with the horses, they look brand new. But they painted, one of them was, especially painted for the 50th
Mm.
anniversary. That quickly became my favorite
Oh my
horse.
gosh. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I thought it looked beautiful. Those carousel horses, though, I mean, they're pieces of art. Each one's unique, and there's not a replication of those horses around there. Between how they're painted, how they look. Um, I like the jumping horses myself. Which ones are your favorite?
The jumping horses as well. I think there is kind of like a fun element to the ride. Not a, I wouldn't necessarily say it's a thrill, but it is kind of like dizzying and offsetting to have it jumping while it's spinning. You know, I think that's really cool. Now, I remember this might have been before your tenure with the park, but I'm sure you know about it. They were rehabbing one of the horses in the paint shop, and they found a Coney Island ticket in one. Am I correct? Am I
Hmm.
remembering this right?
You are correct about that. Yes.
That's awesome.
Yeah, you're
I
definitely
wonder if they were able to
correct
date it
about
at
it.
all.
I don't know if they were able to date it, but it would probably have been, I would imagine, the 50s or 60s with that ticket.
Yeah.
It still looked like it was in decent shape.
Yeah, I saw it. They had it on display. And what's now kind of like they reconfigured the international restaurant on the downside when they put in the elevator several years ago. But they had it in one of the windows along with the carousel horse. Um, Yeah. So you said that the 50th anniversary horse is your favorite.
Yeah, I just think the way it looked, the way it was, painted, it just stood out of all the horses. It just was, there's all the other ones look beautiful, and then there's this one, and that was the one that every time, I would be in line to ride it and they'd open the gates, I tried to head to that one to see if I could get on it. But yeah, I like that one. I know I don't mind the chariots either that they have on it. It's a relaxing way too to sit down and enjoy a ride on the carousel as well.
I'm not certain I've ever done a chariot. Honestly, every time I ride the carousel, I pick kind of eye the horse that I want to have because it's like my favorite within my like field of vision, and I usually just dart for that like a little kid. Um, but yeah, I'll have to try the chariot sometime. So what with your experience on the Coney Island iteration of the carousel,
Mhm.
uh, how much has changed? Like the building over it, is that a reproduction of it, or was that a new thing for Kings Island?
I want to say they rebuilt the building that it's in. I want to say that part, the structure around it, I think, it was probably built for Kings Island. I don't know that 100%, but the ride itself is the same that it was at Coney Island.
Yeah, my
You got the
understanding,
same platforms, the same horses.
right?
You've got the same, like the mirrors and all those things around it. Those were all, brought over from Coney Island. But I've seen pictures, of construction of Kings Island, and the carousel house was going up while Coney Island was still open.
Yeah, my understanding has never been that they moved that building, the Carousel House. But I was
Yeah.
wondering if it was like a replica of the one in Coney. Do you? I mean, I know you were really
Oh
little
yeah, I
with
mean
Coney
it
Island.
looks very similar to what I remembered as from my childhood on that. One of the things too at the carousel for me, like I said, I always try to make sure I ride it, and as I got, older and into roller coasters, there's always the big thrills in that, but I never forgot about um, the carousel and rides like the carousel. They're a survivor of a bygone era, when thrills came in a much tamer form. So, a lot of, you mentioned you were bored to death on it, because you came in, around the time, rides like the Beast and everything were out there. I started out, and the carousel was like one of the first big rides I ever did. It was a major attraction. So I have definitely have that special feeling about it. A lot of memories about it. It's, nostalgic, conjures up those memories from my childhood. So I want to make sure that I ride it every chance I get. And I want to make sure rides like that, stay around. I mean, the ride's approaching 100. So in 2026, it'll be 100 years
Mhm.
old. I want to make sure it's around another 100 years for generations to enjoy. So, and the only way that you can guarantee those kind of things, in a lot of ways, is by riding it. Make sure the ridership is up.
You vote with your feet, don't you?
You vote with your feet. Not that, there's no jeopardy that it's, right now it's going away or anything like that, but down the road, 20, 30 years from now, who knows? So you just make sure that, it's a ride that when you're at the park, it only takes, a few minutes, never has like the hour or whatever line.
Right.
Take a spin on it, enjoy it, and, enjoy some of the other attractions at the park, not just the roller coasters.
Absolutely. We talked about that a lot on the other show, but the carousel, you just got to remember when you're climbing on that thing, you're not climbing on a tame ride that's made for kids. You're climbing on a work of art, you're climbing on history. You're sitting on a saddle where thousands upon thousands of people, some are no longer alive, have sat before. You may have sat on the same horse as your grandfather, and maybe even your great grandfather in some cases. So absolutely, I mean, it's something you got to ride it, even if you only give it one spin a season. Just do it for old Ryan. You got to ride the carousel at your local park if you're not like local to
No, I
Kings
mean,
Island.
it really is like, to me, it's the heartbeat of Kings Island, or, and, you go to other parks. I mean, the carousel, I mean, it's a piece of history normally. There's a lot of tradition behind it. They're among the oldest rides in the parks. So, just enjoy that aspect of it and take a spin.
Absolutely. And one thing that I really wish they had done this, and last year would have been the opportunity, but coming out with like a little porcelain mock-up of the 50th horse, like I would have bought that. I would have spent good money on that, just to be clear, but it never came. But they did make a made to thrill poster for the carousel, which was really cool too.
Yeah, but it's a fun ride. You take it for what it is. So it's not going to provide the thrills of the Beast or Ryan or Diamondback. but it is special. It's an important piece of Kings Island's history.
Hmm.
And I really think that when you go to Kings Island or other parks, make the carousel a priority. Make sure that it's on your bucket list of things to do that day.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, we've been talking. Remember, when you listen to this may be in the past, but July 25th is National Carousel Day. So swing by your local park and hop on the carousel for for the nostalgia of it. But if you want to continue to listen to this podcast, you can be found on your favorite podcast apps by searching for Tower Topics. We're on YouTube by also searching for Tower Topics. It's an actual video version. It's not just a logo with us talking over it. And if you want to keep up with the news in between the shows, then Twitter, Tower underscore topics. Thank you, everybody.